Hello, Dr. Archer Crosley. Welcome to Real World Pediatrics. So today I wanted to talk about concussions. All right, well, I grew up in an age of ignorance. You got your information from television. There was no internet. People didn't know anything. It was the age of rumor and people BSing each other. And most people did. In spite of that, it was a happy age, an age of blissful ignorance. Barry White was the king of music, and that's all we cared about. Now, in the early 70s, while I was in college, I got a concussion. I was playing goalie in an indoor soccer game, and I reached out to grab the ball. And as I dove out in front of me, one of the opposing players swung at the ball and kicked me in the head. Now, I was knocked out very briefly, seconds. I got up and I kept on playing. Nobody stopped me. Nobody thought twice. Now, I remember not being able to remember anything immediately after it was happening. I was living 100% in the present. It was only after the game was over that I realized I had suffered a concussion. Nobody said anything to me about going to the hospital. And of course, this was before we had CT scans and MRIs, so you just toughed it out. And there wasn't any internet to check out even what a concussion exactly was. Our internet was the World Book Encyclopedia. Now, I'm glad that era has changed in many respects. People are so much more aware of what's going on because of the internet, because they can look up things on YouTube videos. Now, since we didn't have any of that stuff back then, when you got a concussion, you just kept on playing. And besides, as I have stated in another video, it was a very macho culture. Let's not go back to those days. Okay, what's going on in a concussion? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. The brain has taken a severe hit to where it breaks loose of the suspension system of connective tissue that is holding it in the center of the head. It is that connective tissue suspension system which prevents the brain from hitting the inside of the skull every time you bend over and pick something up. Now, of course, there's fluid also, but the connective tissue layer also plays an important role. Now, when the brain hits the inside of the skull, the brain doesn't work like it's supposed to. A hard hit on the head affects memory. Now, if you're hit hard enough tissue can fracture within the head to produce a bleed. It's not any more complicated than that. Now, in many respects, a concussion is not too different than a bad sprain. Instead of spraining ligaments around the bones, we're spraining connective tissue that is holding the head, the brain, in the center of the skull. Knowing this, it becomes obvious that we have to give the brain and its surrounding tissue time to heal. Playing right away after concussion is like playing a sprained ankle. We wouldn't play on a sprained ankle. Likewise, we shouldn't play with a sprained brain. In other words, rest must be an option. Now, here are the current recommendations for a concussion. But first, let's go over the grades of a concussion. A mild concussion, grade 1, typically involves symptoms like headache, dizziness, confusion, memory problems, nausea, sensitivity to light or noise, difficulty concentrating, but no loss of consciousness. A moderate concussion, grade 2, however, involves brief loss of consciousness, less than 5 minutes, along with other symptoms like amnesia, ringing in the ears, and irritability, plus any of the symptoms that you might find in grade 1. So it's a matter of degree going from grade 1 to grade 2. A severe concussion, that would be grade 3, involves a loss of consciousness greater than 5 minutes, plus any of the symptoms that you find in grade 1 or grade 2. Now, given all that, what I recommend is no PE in sports for 4 weeks after grade 1 concussion, accompanied by cognitive rest and a return to sports only after a memory assessment has been passed and there are no lingering symptoms or signs. The player, when cleared, must then follow a graduated return to play protocol. For a grade 2 concussion, no P in sports for 6 weeks, accompanied by cognitive rest, an MRI scan, a referral to a neurologist, and a return to sports only after a memory assessment has been passed, clearance by the specialist, plus a lack of symptomatology. The player, when cleared, must follow a graduated return to play protocol. For a grade 3 concussion, as far as I'm concerned, the season is over, and a strong recommendation is given to cease contact sports completely. I will also refer to a neurologist and get an MRI. Now, this may be too conservative for you, but this is what I now recommend based upon what I have seen and read. Now, your doctor will probably differ. And naturally, your child will be upset having to rest. Well, there's nothing to be said about that. It is what it is. Nothing could be more dangerous than playing too soon. When it comes to a concussion, you have to give that connective tissue a chance to repair itself. It's been compromised. Just as you compromise your ligaments with an ankle sprain, you compromise the connective tissue that surrounds your brain when you suffer a concussion. Your child has to rest. Case closed. It's not just a matter of the memory being good and the lack of a headache for a return to sports. The tissues have to heal. I'm not being the good guy by allowing your child to play. As far as I'm concerned, the NFL guidelines are not strict enough. Now, let's look at the case of the boxer in Cinderella Man who was killed by Max Baer. I think you've seen the movie Cinderella Man. Now, this death of this boxer was a real event. The boxer's name was Frankie Campbell, and he died because he suffered repeated blows to the head, even after he was most likely unconscious and propped up by the ropes. Take-home message: concussions are major events not to be trifled with. Thank you.